Last time, we finally got to work on the floors. We patched a few smaller holes, cleaned and painted the rocker panel, and welded everything up nicely. Now that the floor is all together, we can move on to less work-intensive parts of the project. I started this week off by installing some insulation on the driver's side. This fat mat insulation is great for sound deadening and is super easy to install. You just clean the area that you're going to install it on, peel, and then stick it. I didn't have a roller to help push the sound deadener down, but anything with a smooth rounded edge will work. Make sure to smooth it out as much as possible, since any air pockets will reduce the fat mat's effectiveness. Since the fat mat is just basically for noise and not heat, I needed to find something that would insulate a little better. After researching for a while, I decided to use Polyiso foam board. This stuff has a decent R value at 5 per inch, it's eco-friendly, and doesn't retain moisture, which is a huge plus since I just fixed a bunch of rust caused by that moisture. I also sealed the edges of the foam board with foil tape, so any moisture that does get behind the panels doesn't get absorbed by the insulation. After sealing up the panel that I just welded with seam sealer, it was time to clean up the decades of dirt from my floors. These floors were absolutely disgusting. I guess I shouldn't expect any better since this was probably the first time that this floor had seen the light of day since it left the factory. With the floors clean and the seam sealer dry, I got to work cutting the lower part of the driver's side insulation. The holes on the bottom are to allow air to pass through the bottom of the panel and allow any water that gets in there to dry. This panel sat a little bit loose, so I had to wedge small pieces of insulation between the spaces. I also taped the upper edge to the body of the car. Now the side was nicely insulated from heat and noise. I cleaned off anything around the floors, like any old insulation, or even inside of the heater. Any rust or broken screws needed to go too. I decided to use POR 15 to cover the entire floor. This sealed up any rust and left a really nice thick layer of paint so that it wouldn't get scratched up again. Well, I have a problem. This is all I have left of this stuff. I've only done those two little pieces and this. I still need to do all of this, the back. I would like to put some here, here, maybe even underneath the carpet here, here, and the entire floor. And then I still want to do up there and the front doors, so we're gonna need to order a lot more. Of course, this doesn't fit in there, so thinking that maybe I need to do it in two pieces, maybe cut here, and then put one piece in and then force the other one on it. Now it's in. Now I found that the only real way of getting these things in there to stay and to stay put, so they don't like rattle around, is to wedge them in there really tight. You kind of have to make them a little bit oversized and then wrestle them in. Using rigid insulation is a bit of a challenge, but if you're good at puzzles or Tetris, eventually you can make it fit. It's also easier to figure stuff out with a little help, so my buddy Gio stopped by to lend a hand. There you go, you can say hi to the camera.
Woo! Working on the van again. Again.
Yeah, again, that's right. So, yep, we're gonna do this little edge right here, and then, yeah, we're gonna see if maybe we can put some over there.
If you have a reservoir tank for the back washer on your lid, it's probably a good idea to temporarily remove that to get some good insulation in the back.
Even a small area like this takes a lot of time, so patience is key. After the sun went down, I decided to put the panels back and finally get that side completely done, and also put some insulation on the other side. The next day I worked on sanding down the side of the car. A previous owner used a lot of Bondo to cover the rust. This was very noticeable since the piece that I welded in didn't have any Bondo. A few passes with a sander got everything level. While the primer on the side dried, I sprayed the edge of the floor with paint. POR isn't very UV resistant, so any parts that the sun will hit need to be painted. Luckily, the auto shop had a really close paint color. Well, that's pretty much it for this week. Join us next time to finally get this van back on the road. Thanks for watching.